Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And today is another one of those great shows where we go a little bit broader and we say it's obviously not just about being slim. You know, that's our little phrase. It's about living better and having a wonderful, happy, and healthy life. Because often a lot of us want to be quote unquote slim because that we think that will make us feel a certain way. And oftentimes there's a lot of things we can do to just feel better. And today's guest is really a great contributor into that arena of things we can do, mindsets we can have to feel better. It just really has a great metaphor that I had to bring him on the show to share with you because I think it will help you to live better and also have you smiling along the way. He is the author of the book, The Law of the Garbage Truck. He's done a bunch of work with the positive psychology movements over at the University of Pennsylvania, Martin Seligman, all those great folks. He's been on NPR, ABC, travels all over the world. Really a great guy with a great message about not getting dumped on. David J. Pollay, welcome to the show, brother.
Jonathan, hey, thanks so much. Great to be with you.
David, before we get into your Law of the Garbage Truck, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because you've been in this world working in the corporate environment and just in general for quite some time. What led you to speaking and spreading this message of garbage trucks?
You know, Jonathan, for me, it goes back all the way to college, where I've always been interested in how people get along with each other in whatever environment. You know, so whether it's a family or if it's a business or a college organization, or if, you know, politics, how is it that people get along, and what is it that they focus on? How do they bring out the best in other people, and how do they get to good resolutions when there are conflicts? And so I've always been interested in that. And when I came out of college, I became the president of an international organization called ISEC, AIESEC. And what they do is they focus on people all around the world, trying to help people, exchange people and businesses all around the world to increase international understanding, so that if we get people to understand each other better, we're going to be more likely to work together. So going all the way back there in that role, I went into companies like Yahoo and MasterCard, and I was always interested in how, again, can we get people from all different backgrounds and all different ages, all different races, ethnicities, doesn't matter, wherever the person's background, how do we get them all to focus on what's important and see the best in each other, so that we can all live a more happy and healthier life. And so that's really where it all started. And then it took me to academics. It took me to the field, as you mentioned, positive psychology, based at the University of Pennsylvania. I was in the first master's program and helped found the International Positive Psychology Association, which in a nutshell is traditional psychology. And I'll leave you with this thought here. Traditional psychology focuses a lot on the question of what's wrong with people. And that's not a bad question, because there are a lot of things that we all want to fix and make. So if we're suffering from depression, we want to feel better. If we're suffering from anxiety, we want to know why. We want to get better there too. But what positive psychology does is focuses on what makes people happier and more successful, and asks a different question, which is what's right with people. And the follow-up question is, how do we amplify that? So my background really has been in business and in academics, and then as a writer, focused on, and with the Law of the Garbage Truck, how do we help people recognize the best in each other, the best in ourselves, so that we can really bring out, you know, what our real gifts are, and then know how to navigate the negativity in life, especially the negative things that we can't control, that we really don't want to put our attention to.
David, there's so much here that I am just bursting at the seams to unpack. But before we do that, you have a great, eloquent, quick way of describing this law of the garbage truck, which your book is named. What is the law of the garbage truck?
Well, essentially, it's I'll start with, you referenced the metaphor of the garbage truck, and if everyone leaves with this one idea that human beings are not meant to be garbage trucks. In real life, garbage trucks are great. They go and look for all the bad things we want to get rid of, and then they pick them up, fill up in the the truck with all that bad stuff, and then they go find a place to dump it. But human beings are not meant to be garbage trucks. We're not meant to look for every negative thing we can't control, rumors, gossip, unnecessary criticism, excessive complaining, fill up on all that, and then at the slightest provocation, turn around and, whether it's on the street or at home or at work, turn around and dump on other people. So that's the basic metaphor. And it's really like if I had everyone listening on this call, and if I could just say, we are not garbage trucks, I'd say, repeat after me, we are not garbage trucks. That's the essence of it. Now, what made the law of the garbage truck particularly, well known around the world, we've estimated it's been read by the first writing of it when I wrote it in a syndicated column a number of years ago, essentially as an essay. They've estimated maybe 100 million people have read it. And what stuck with them is I had an experience in New York City in the back of a taxi cab, and there was some wise words shared with me by that taxi driver when we almost got into an accident. And as a writer, I crafted that into what I call the law of the garbage truck, which essentially is this. Many people are like garbage trucks, or they can be garbage trucks. Many people are like garbage trucks. They run around full of garbage, full of frustration, full of anger, full of disappointment. And as their garbage piles up, they do what garbage trucks do. They look for a place to dump it. And if you let them, they'll dump it on you. So when someone wants to dump on you, don't take it personally. Just smile, wave, wish them well, and move on. Just move on. And the essence and the real message there is, we get to choose our response in life wherever we are, in our family environment, our work environment, on the streets, in the stores, restaurants, wherever. So we get to choose our response in life, and it doesn't have to involve garbage. We get to choose that response.
David, there's two angles to this that really, really resonated with me when I was checking out your great work, and that was, one is the observation that people in general sometimes just tend to be more like garbage trucks almost innately, or at least in modern culture, where if we're shown something, we might focus on that which is negative, or we focus on that piece of trash over there rather than that flower over there. And I want to unpack maybe why we have a tendency to do that. And then I'd also love to unpack I love the idea of just smiling and waving and letting the garbage truck move on. But sometimes that's easier said than done. So I'd love to talk about strategies for both.
Yeah, you bet. Well, the first thing is the research really does demonstrate that, as you had pointed out, that we remember the bad things more often than we do the good things. They just tend to be more sticky. It was research by a really great researcher, psychology researcher, Roy Baumeister. It just says, and the challenges, and we recall them more frequently. So if you look at research by Barbara Fredrickson at the University of North Carolina, the whole idea is that you don't get rid of negative emotion. Anger at a gross injustice, or frustration when things just are not happening as they really should, as designed. Those are negative emotions, but those are productive and they're important emotions. So we don't want to get rid of them. But there are lots of negative hassles and annoyances that pop up in our daily lives. So what we want to be able to do is you have to sort of overwhelm them with, as you mentioned, seeing the flower. Or when you wake up in the morning, a good way to think about it is wake up in the morning, and if you have children, there's so many things you have to get going. If you're a mom or a dad who's trying to get the kids ready for school in the morning, who's waking up first, who's getting their shower, who's getting their backpack put together, who's getting the lunch together, how are we getting ready, the dog out, whatever it might be. So there's lots of little stuff and lots of little hassles that can start to overtake your focus. But there are also beautiful things like the child waking up with a kiss and a hug and beautiful music playing and talk around what's going to be happening during that day and reminiscing of what happened over the weekend and focus and looking, and calling out what people have, how good they look or what they're working on or that they're excited to walk to the bus stop or whatever the case might be. So the research definitely demonstrates that if we want to make sure to avoid this this bias towards negativity that seems to be stickier than the positive things, we need to really make a conscious effort to bring in our focus on these positive things that are all around us. And thankfully, that's very important. Now, I think you had a second question. Really, was how do you deal with negativity and not just dismiss things? Because there are times where people have something that they have to share that's important. So this is not a retreat strategy. Is this something? The first question to ask is what's happening right now anything that I can do to control? Can I have any influence over this whatsoever? So if someone cuts you off on the street, and so many of us are in cars, what am I going to do about that? And people fantasize and they start to tailgate, or they start talking to the person next to them, and just goes on. They get to work, and then someone says, "Hey, how was your day?" "Oh my gosh, the terrible drivers again. It's just, can you believe the commute's getting worse and worse?" And all of a sudden, what I call a garbage cycle gets in motion, where one thing feeds the other, and it feeds the other, and all of a sudden you get in this. You sit down in your cube at work, and you're just thinking, "How did I get into this conversation?" or "Why am I feeling this way?" It all started with just reacting negatively to something that you couldn't control to begin with. So the first thing is, if you have no control over it whatsoever, you really want to let it pass by. And there are so many examples of that we could take the rest of the show. Actually, in the book, The Law of the Garbage Truck, there are a couple quizzes, a garbage acceptor quiz and a garbage dumper quiz, that give people, an idea of just how many ways they're triggered on a daily basis, and how many ways they can really drop the impact of these triggers. But I'll just give one example of if someone has a complaint. First thing is, if it has merit, you got to address it. You got to address a challenge that comes up if it warrants it. But if the complaints are passing and unimportant, just like the drivers, the waiters are not as friendly as they used to be, or they don't really like the copy paper. If it's just they're passing and unimportant, you just can redirect the conversation to say, I totally get that, and then just have the confidence just to switch the conversation to something else. Say, hey, how was your weekend? Or, hey, what's going on in that meeting? I heard the product rollout is going well. Or, hey, I hear the kids got a great program after school. And just do that, because most people they're not even aware. They're not like married to the desire to complain about the copy paper. It's just something that pops up, and if not redirected, people will just make a big deal of it. So just to redirect the conversation. Now, if people insist on complaining, one thing that I talk about in the book is there's a difference between dumping and venting. So I just say, ask them if they need to vent. Just insert real quick. Just say, "Hey, man, do you need to vent?" And what it does is it gives the individual a quick chance to say, "Yeah, man, that'd be great," and then you allow them to talk about what they need to talk about. But when you ask them if they need to vent, what you're basically doing is suggesting that two things: that it's time based, that it's just going to be a little while, and it's permission based. We're basically giving you permission to say to complain. But if people are just return to vent time after time, then we really need to redirect them to the source of the problem and help them get to where their problem is going to get addressed and get really taken care of, rather than just a consistent complaint that shrouds everyone's good feelings.
David, I so appreciate this metaphor, and it's what got me so excited to chat with you, because it works so well. Just in hearing you talk now, a few things I'd love to get your take on, which I hope I'm augmenting the metaphor rather than corrupting it in some way. So the first thing you mentioned, which was the natural tendency to focus on garbage, and we have to make a conscious effort not to. One thing I've noticed, or let's continue that metaphor. You're walking around outside, and there's a beautiful path you could walk along. Maybe it's beautiful. You don't know. It's just a path. But you see that there's a piece of garbage sitting on the ground, and you're like, "Oh, well, this is clearly a dirty area, so I'm just going to turn the other direction, not even pay any attention to it." Whereas in reality, like if you would maybe someone just accidentally dropped that and you just walk past it, 50 feet down the road, it's beautiful and it's amazing. And you never would have seen that or experienced it if at the very beginning you looked at the one piece of garbage and said, well, that's the one thing I disagree with or the one thing I don't like, so my mind closes. It seems like we also have a tendency to do that. We find the one thing we don't like, and then we cut ourselves off. And that seems very limiting. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for my kids, I have to say, of course, if you see a piece of garbage literally on the street, you got to pick it up, throw it out, right? But with that metaphor, you're absolutely right. What so happens is all of a sudden we throw all our energy, and I call that garbage cycle, where we throw all our energy on that particular, garbage on the pathway. And rather than continually, then what we start doing is we use it. It becomes like a magnet. It starts pulling in all our thoughts that confirm that that's something that's not good, and then we start complaining to ourselves. And if someone then comes over to us, we'll start complaining to them. That's the first thing that's on our mind, rather than recognizing, that someone said something that wasn't quite the nicest thing in the world, but hey, they're a good person. I know that. They're doing good work. I know that. I don't need to focus on that part of the path. Let's focus on, as you say, focus on the brighter path, the more productive path, and let that that inconsequential thing said, leave it inconsequential. Don't make it the focus of of your walk. And so you're absolutely right. Don't pick. And here's the other thing, and the other way I'll tie to your insightful thing about seeing something kind of garbage on the pathway of life is that we don't want to take the bait of other people who don't necessarily mean to do it. Some people try to really get you into negative conversations, but try not to take the bait. So on that pathway, when someone throws you a negative thing you can't control, that is just excessive complaining or needless criticism, just don't take the bait and don't go with it. And acknowledge, hey, yeah, that's no fun, and then turn the conversation to either what you were doing or to something that's productive that will get you both focused on something important.
And continuing that metaphor again, you described just there, and then also earlier when you were talking, where someone just maybe comes into the office or comes home and they don't mean to. It's as if they're carrying a bunch of, like, a bag of garbage, and some of it just spills out. Like, they don't mean to. It just spills out, and you could take that piece of garbage and, like, pick it up and rub it all over yourself, but you don't.
Right.
Maybe you just pick it up, throw it in the garbage can, and move on. And maybe if they have a giant bag of garbage that they really do need help with, like you said, you ask them, do you want to vent? And that's just like saying, I have this garbage can here, and I'm going to give you permission to pour your garbage into it. But those are two very different things. The metaphor seems to work in both cases.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jonathan. And it's kind. One of the things to be able to do for family or friends is that if you see someone is really struggling, and it's not just needless complaining, excessive complaining and so forth, criticism, it's a kind thing to do to say, hey, look, you look like you got something on your mind. It looks like, how was your day? Things look like they might have been, little, how are you? Just simply like, hey, come here, give me a hug. How are you doing? Giving whatever it is in your relationship that gives you someone an opportunity to open up is a wonderful thing and a beautiful thing. So if you see a child coming home at the end of the day and they look a little distraught and they're not so friendly about things, say, hey, come on over here. I want to see you. I want to hear about your day. I want to talk to you. And remembering what was on their agenda for the day is very helpful, rather than just saying, how was your day? But really specific to, hey, tell me about the project that you were doing in school today and how'd that go? And or just, hey, what happened? It looks like I don't see that big bright. My mom used to say to me when I was growing up, I don't see that big bright smile. What's going on? Come over here and give me a kiss. And then you open the door for a conversation. And when you do in that regard, you're doing it. You come into it with generosity, where you are ready to, as you were really implying there, is ready to give that either virtual hug or real hug and say, I'm here for you. We can talk and help them focus on what's important. And again, not get caught up in the all the negative things they can't control, which will just, send them into that garbage cycle.
David, the law of the garbage truck has touched the lives of literally millions, as you mentioned. What's next for you?
Well, what's next is I have a second book coming out, scheduled to come out next year, where we're really focusing on, and the information will be on the website, davidpollay.com, Pollay.com, which is really focused on if we know that we want to navigate negativity and stay out of the garbage cycle, then what are the three things we can do to stay inside what I call the gratitude cycle, the real focus on the good things that are happening in our lives. So there's a book coming out on that, and looking forward to people seeing that coming out next year. It's going to be published by Sterling Publishing. Barnes & Noble is the parent company there. And then I'm on a mission to get around to as many organizations and schools and religious institutions as possible to have people take the No Garbage Trucks Pledge. Jonathan, I think we've talked about that, where people from all around the world, I had teachers the other day, and I had parishioners the other day, and corporate executives taking this pledge, where everyone just gets on their feet and makes a commitment to say, we want to increase happiness, success, and civility. So basically have them take this pledge where they say, I do not accept garbage in my life. When I see garbage trucks, I do not take them personally. I just smile, I wave, I wish them well, and I move on. And I do not spread garbage to others. I am not, back to that again, I am not a garbage truck. I do not accept garbage in my life. And so we're getting people from around the world. We've had people in more than 48 languages have taken the No Garbage Trucks Pledge, and to really just increase happiness, success, and civility in the world, and increase their health. So that's what's up. That's what's next.
David, I love it. Certainly a pledge worth taking for all of us, and we can learn more about that pledge as well as your lovely first book as well as upcoming second book. That first book, folks, again, is called The Law of the Garbage Truck. As you've heard here, a hugely profound and helpful metaphor for thinking about life and things in general. And the man we've been talking with and the author is David J. Pollay. His website is his name, David Pollay, and that's spelled POLLAY.com. David, thank you so much for sharing your time and insight with us today.
Jonathan, thank you so much. Great being on the show, and congrats on your success as well.
Thank you, sir. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful conversation as much as I did. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, don't be garbage trucks, and live better. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.